Ask Reddit. Police of Reddit. What dumb call turned serious very quickly? Deputy here. It was a Saturday night, and I had a call for an erratic vehicle, unable to stay in lane, speeding, etc. Everyone assumed it was a routine DWI, because it was Saturday night and started looking. Well, she passed me on a main road, so I turned around and conducted a traffic stop. She stopped her car in a terrible place, so I approached on the passenger side. She was very angry and disrespectful, and she wouldn't turn to look at me, just looked forward. I could smell alcohol, wasn't sure if it was coming from her or the vehicle. I asked for her license and registration to run her information. I decided I was going to talk to her more on the driver's side to see if I could find signs of impairment. When I walked over to her side, I saw the entire left side of her face was bruised and blood was coming out of her mouth. Also a bruise on her neck in the shape of a hand and fingers. I had her step out to ask about it. She informed me her boyfriend got drunk and thought she was cheating on him and decided to hold her down by the neck and punch her approximate 10 times. She had major swelling and the blood was a cut from her cheek against her teeth. It took 25 minutes to convince her to give me his information. She told me he lives in a neighboring state and the incident occurred there. I called the neighboring state police and informed them. Found out the guy had 3 felony warrants and they have been looking for him. Sheriff deputy here. During patrol I started noticing at one house that their packages being delivered at their front door weren't being taken inside. A lot of these packages were groceries. I also noticed their mail wasn't being brought in. Usually the postal service mentions something when they see this, but I brought it upon myself to do a welfare check. I arrived at the door and knocked. No answer. I knocked a few more times. No answer. I started thinking maybe the person that lives there may be gone for a while. I decided to take one peek through the front window and I saw an elderly woman laying on the ground. I announced to dispatch what I saw and I'm entering the house immediately. Luckily I didn't have to kick the front door down and instead discovered the back door was unlocked. I entered the house and the lady was alive, but due to her older age, she wasn't able to stand back up on her own strength after falling and has been laying on the ground for 2 days. I got paramedics to arrive and take her to a nearby hospital. I found her phone book with personal numbers in her kitchen and called her adult children and notified them of what happened. They were very relieved and drove to the hospital to help care for her. Deputy friend of mine ended up getting hospitalized after responding to a call of a home intruder. There wasn't a home intruder, but there was a very large aggressive turkey that bit him in the ass hard enough he needed stitches. It was dumb and routine. Before we got there, it was a local well-known drunken criminal, jack of all trades, who was playing with fireworks. Not an uncommon thing. However, he was in his living room, and they were very powerful and illegal. He was entertaining himself by lighting the wick and putting it out. He wasn't quick enough one time. The mortar went through his roof, blasted the storm door off the hinges into the front yard. His torso lacerated. Intestines needed to be pushed back in and sewn up. About a year later, almost to the day, he got in a fight with his girlfriend on the interstate highway. At some point they pulled over. He got out. Doors were locked, so he climbed on the hood. She started driving, and he fell off. Wasn't even in very bad shape. He was shirtless, of course, and I saw the surgery scars from the year prior. I got the opposite response here. Got a call that a woman was giving birth, so me and a rookie head on over to the address. Rookie was super excited to get to help with this, since he hadn't gotten the opportunity yet. So we pull up and his face drops. It's a 50-year-old meth up woman rolling and screaming in her grass saying that she's giving birth to a dog. Anyways, I tell my partner to fuck on out to here and go help the woman deliver that dog. That call went from serious to pretty dumb very quickly. Not a cop, but the son of one. Lots of stories I could tell, but one has always stood out in particular. Police were called one night due to noise complaint at someone's house. When police arrive, it's discovered that there is meth and the person in the house, we'll call him Jerry, is on it like no tomorrow. More cops eventually show up and none of them can keep Jerry down. They try using a taser, but it's ineffective on its own. As taser is getting a new battery, 8 cops tackle Jerry all at once and are still struggling to keep him down. Dude with taser then shoves taser against Jerry's balls and says put your hands behind your back or your balls are getting electrocuted. Jerry then magically complies with police officers. Not a cop. This happened outside my college residence and I imagine they had a laugh at this before they showed up because my roommates and I sure did. This kid was all messed up on some kind of drug and was screaming and beating the shit out of a backhoe loader that had been left there overnight due to some construction work going on campus. Obviously construction equipment is generally made out of pretty thick steel, so it's not like he was doing much damage. By this point campus security had been by and I'm assuming we are like fuck this, we need the real police because they just stopped for 10 minutes and then kept driving. I'm assuming this is the point where the police were called. Turns out some dumbass left the keys in the machine. You know, cause that's what you do on a college campus full of drunk teenagers. So this kid somehow figures out how to start it and proceeds to drive straight forward into the backup generator for the residence building across from mine, knocking it off its concrete pad and crushing it up against the wall. Then tried to back up, but the cops have arrived at this point and blocked his escape. He then tries to drive over the lawn to get away, but since he can't figure out how to raise the bucket up he can't get over the curb and ends up bending the shit out of the bucket by hitting the concrete repeatedly. Obviously was arrested on the spot. Police here. Got a call of some lady refused to get out of the bathroom. It's around 2 AM and the cleaning crew of a restaurant let her inside, but she didn't want to leave. It's raining and cold outside. I think it was January. We get there and another set of officers from a nearby precinct respond because it's boring when it's cold and raining. The lady comes out dressed in simple pajamas, no shoes or socks, holding an infant wrapped in a baby blanket. No jacket, no coat, no warm anything. Just button down pajamas and her tiny infant. All of us are like, hold up. They aren't dressed for this weather at all. The mom looks pretty normal, as in she's not a transient. We learn later she's a brain surgeon and lives in a very swank condo. Turns out she walked 6 to 8 blocks down the street in the rain dressed like this. Then the mother displays behavior attributed to mental health disorders. Starts screaming they are trying to kill her. Gets incredibly manic. Hunches down and her eyes go wild. But she's holding that baby tight. We know she needs to go to a psych hospital, but we have to get the baby away first. We plead we want to help her, just let us hold the baby. She won't of course, because in her mind we are all trying to kill her. At one point she whispers, kind of spooky, give me a gun, and I'll do it myself. We swarm her. 2 for the baby and 2 on her, and she's screaming bloody murder. It was unnerving to say the least. My partner and I took the call, report. We get a hold of dad, and take the baby back to him. He didn't realize she had left. He's a doctor too. He mentioned she didn't want to take her psych meds anymore and hadn't taken them in about a week. Lesson learned. If you need psych meds, please take your meds. Don't ever think you're all better without them.